Hi guys, welcome to another analysis video. I haven't done one of these for a long time. I've been playing a lot of chess. I've just not got around to actually doing any analysis of it. I've got some spare time now, so I'm going to catch up on a few games. This game was fairly recent. I played it in the London Summer Chess League, which is a great event. It's been organised by Battersea Chess Club, my chess club, which is fantastic. We're trying all sorts of new ways to get people interested in chess. So please check us out. We're at www.batterseachess.org.uk. Oh, sorry, chessclub.org.uk. And yeah, check us out. We've got a good blog going there by Leon. Leon's a top chat, as is Aldo, who does a lot of the organising. That's enough plugging them, I think. This particular match was my team in Chessables were top of the league, and this team we were playing were the second place team. They had an IM on top board, and I played on second board. I was against a very decent player. I've seen him around the London chess scene, in the chess league in particular, I should say. And I've seen him win some good games against some tough players. Or just looking around, I tend to walk around tournament rooms and league rooms, and I know it's a lot of games. And if I see an interesting one, I tend to hang around to have a little look. Anyway, my opponent's a good player, so I wasn't underestimating him. His rating was 154. He's 165 now with the new grades that have just come out, so he's definitely no mug, as he will prove in this game. We're just going to jump straight into it because I do tend to wobble on a bit. So start out, I was white. I played e4. I generally play e4. I've been thinking about other openings, but you know, when I really want to bring my A game, I play e4. And my opponent played d6, so I wasn't sure what he was going to go for yet. I don't know if he's been watching too much Simon Williams and he's going to play a black lion. Could be another line of the Philidor, or it could be a perk. Or a pierce, depending on how you want to say it. I call it a perk. Because I think it's a perk for white when black plays it, because it gives you a nice attack for nothing. No, I'm only teasing. It's a dangerous opening. I've done other analysis videos where I've come a cropper, so don't take that comment too much to heart for this game. So it is a perk because he's played g6. I like the knight c6 line. I tend to play either f3 or f4. Not a lot to talk about at the beginning, so I'm just going to whiz through a couple more moves and stop at the moment of first crisis, if you like, your first big decision that I needed to make. h6 may look slow. It's not really, because in lots of lines, white's going to castle queenside, and there's nothing wrong with having a6 and b4 coming. c5 comes as well. a6 is certainly not slow in this position. I'm not breaking through to his king at any point at the moment, so a6 is absolutely fine. Before people go, oh, a6. Bishop e2, I had a choice. I could have played it onto c4. Obviously, I'll just show that quickly. If I play it onto c4, obviously I'm eyeing up the f pawn. Yeah, my knight could suddenly spring into action. You know, it's a good place to go, but it also sort of plays into a6 a little bit because it's going to allow b5 to come with tempi. So I was avoiding that. So instead I played bishop e2, and the reason I played bishop e2 also is perhaps Harry's going to march his way to glory, and it's nice to have a bishop to cover him. Extra defense on here, maybe even be able to play g4 if I have to, if h5 comes. And also in certain lines, the knight jumps in and actually hassles your dark square bishop. Now, if I delay playing my knight to f3, at least the bishop's covering that square some more. So there's, you know, the bishop's already controlling it once, but now I control it twice. So this is the idea behind bishop e2 anyway. I'm going too far into it. Just giving you my thoughts. So he plays h5 straight away, which, as I say, is a good move, as in it seizes some space on the king side, but it does give me a target too. I mean, this pawn is particularly weak. And perhaps g6 is weak too, if I could ever rush through f5. But I understand it also, like, you can maybe, in some lines, you can pop your bishop out. Oh, it's not letting me draw an arrow. Let me draw an arrow? Okay. And also your knight. So either your bishop or knight can use that h6 square. You'd be surprised how useful it is. So, no openings lost just because of one move like h5. So, we're not going to spend too much time on it. I think there's probably other moves you could definitely play here. I mean, just knight f6 is perfectly fine. Just get on with b5 from a6, etc. h5 does feel like it was maybe one pawn move extra. So I play f4, typical aggressive chess patzer chess. I'm obviously going to try and take advantage of what I see as an overextension, so I want to try and hack through on g6 and weaken the squares around here. If I can get any of these weakening, perhaps the bishop will belong there. Who knows? So f4 was a no-brainer for me. He was a little bit like he held out a red rag to me, and I went for it. So he used the square that I mentioned. I really don't think f5's coming. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. But it's sort of aimed against if I play e5. He does have this square, and that's where this pawn will come in handy, because it will defend the knight, so there's no quick g4. Well, there probably is a quick g4, but he can take back with a pawn. I'd have to prepare it. It's a bit slow, but it would still be a plan. But that's the idea of knight h6, because it may end up sitting in here. And it may even end up sitting in there as well. I don't know. I don't know if he ever wants me to trade off one of my bishops, because maybe he's making me do that. So I just stop the knight coming in. And it also prepares g4 as well. I mean, I'm quite happy to have 4 pawns up the board. I don't generally have many games where I'm sitting crouched in the corner. Let's put it that way. Developer move, absolutely fine. Perhaps here, if I was going to take a deep breath, I could possibly play a4. It's not really my style. It's a restraining move. It's a good move. Directly influencing b5 push, so there's no shenanigans over there. But I went for knight f3, which is a developing move, very tempting. I mean, he can now. He couldn't bring his knight in. That was the point of that was the point of h3. So now the knight can come out to f3, which is where it wants to be. Potentially jumping into g5, maybe helping the push of the e pawn at some point. Gotta say, at this point in the game, I'm already pretty happy with how things are going. I'm looking around the other tables, etc., and I'm saying, well, at least I'm going to get some sort of attack at some point. I mean, white, his position's all ready for the centre. All my pieces are out. All I've got to do is decide where to castle, where to put my queen, and then get on with the attack. e6, a restraining move. Good move. Now here I've got a good few choices. I've got just queen d2. I could castle and then castle queenside. I could play a4 still. a4 still an option. But I thought, nah, that none of those feel urgent enough. I'm going to go queen d3. Now, the reason I've gone queen d3 is because I'm obsessed with playing f5. Actually, there was another option there as well. I think even here I could play d5, but this is a computer line, and they're very hard to play lines that you don't really feel comfortable with. I didn't even consider d5, to be honest, so that's not really something I'm interested in. I could also maybe castle kingside here, which also helps. What I'm trying to do is push the f-pawn, which is what queen d3 does. Now, the downside of queen d3 is it can become a little bit of a target here, which may or may not come into the game later on. But the main idea was just because I wanted to play f5 and not lose a pawn. So let's move on to his next move. b5, he's got to get his counterplay going, which is why, you know, a4 is potentially a good move, because it stops that. Then there's no, they're not castling queenside. Even with a4, you'd probably be okay, or you could put your king on f2 or something. But what a4 would have done, we would have restrained b5. It wouldn't have been any. I haven't played any bad moves yet. Let's put it that way. But there's just ways I could have stopped his play as well. So I go straight in with f5, because that's, like I said, I've geared up my plan to play f5. So it seems a bit pointless to back out once you've decided you're going to do something. I didn't have to go straight away. That's true. I mean, I've talked to various people about this game, and you know, I really enjoyed this game. I've got to say, no matter what the result is at the end. I could have played a restraining move. I could have played a3. I could also have just castle queenside. That would have been okay. Queenside or kingside, they both would have been okay. But I just wanted to see where his king was going before I decided which way my king was going. And I thought f5 certainly doesn't lose material, and potentially I'll smash open the middle of the board and get some sort of edge. So my opponent, I mean, has to take. So I don't think it massively matters which way he takes, because it's going to be the same position. Here I could have even taken a breath. I could have played bishop g5 here. But then I guess he could have either blocked with the knight. Well, blocking with the knight would have been risky because I could have possibly played pawn up then, so that would have been dangerous. But maybe he could even just play f6. I mean, then the bishop just comes back. I just don't know how safe his king is. It's one of those positions where a computer absolutely loves these kind of games, and when you play as a human, which is why I've aimed for it, it becomes a bit chaotic. I did take that knight, and the reason I took that knight is because the knight is defending the f-pawn. So I was starting my tactics. I've given up the dark squares, which is plus minus here. And my opponent was very creative which way he took back, because I was assuming he'd take back with the bishop, and I thought the position would end up something like this. And then, if he wanted to, he could take this, and then I'd take... Whoops. And I couldn't castle queenside here, and I don't know. This is the sort of position I had in my head. And I'm like, well, the queen could just drop back. His king's not safe. I can still castle kingside. Though he does get a bishop check, which I'm not too fussed about, to be honest. Bishop check here. So, I had this in my head and I thought, well, it's complicated. And to be fair, I don't really play solid chess. It's not my style. I'd rather have an exciting game with fireworks on board. So perhaps this is okay, and then I'll just drop the queen back, as I say, and then I don't know. This position's murky, to say the least. Perhaps black's just fine. He just develops some pieces. I castle, and it's a battle. I don't know how safe his king is and my king is. If he eventually castles queenside, I've got a4 as a break, but he does also have an open g file, so it's probably balanced chaos, I would call that. But he didn't take with the bishop. No, this is quite creative. This when he originally took the rook, I was like, oh, that doesn't look right. But you know what? That rook is actually very active, especially after the next few moves. Actually covers this rank really well, and can sit in front of my king, which, funny enough, kind of happens. So I underestimated this move, just because it looks weird, because you know the king's not got anywhere near castling yet, but it actually has a lot of pluses. So I'm opening up the centre, as you know I think I should. Let's go back a move. I'm opening up the centre as I think I should. If he takes now, I'm really feeling pretty good. Though I think the game was still kind of transposed. It's just I wouldn't be as weak on the dark squares, but my dark squares aren't as weak, but his rook is really active. So it's a bit of a toss of a coin, which way round's better. He plays knight b6, which is a good move. Two reasons why. One, he's aiming up for the c4 square, which will become very awkward because I don't have any defence yet on the b2 pawn. Also, and more importantly, it defends the rook. In lots and lots of lines, I'm getting my queen here, and it becomes awkward for this rook. So this knight is a fantastic piece, even though it looks offside. Now, you look at this game and think, two beginners are playing this game. Absolute idiots. What the hell are they doing? You know, they've not castled, they've chucked all their pawns up the board and everything else, and you're only half right. But this position, believe it or not, is 0.00. I mean, that just shows you how mental chess can be. How can this be a level position? It's complete nuts. I mean, okay, is it saying it's level nuts? In which case, oh, fine, 000. But I don't think so. I think there's a lot of play, a lot of danger for both sides. So it's a bit of a tightrope, this position. Which, again, I'm happy to play. I don't play chess just to turn up and let the pieces gradually move up the board. I'm trying to create something. Chaos, generally. So knight b6 is a good move. I continue, which is quite right. I've got to try and open up the centre where his king is. I want to take it open. You know, the other good news about the rook, this is what I'm saying about the rook defending this particular rank, is that, oh, don't do that, is the g6 square is covered, and that is very handy for him later on. So taking the pawn actually helps him a tiny bit, as in, like, you know, the rook is totally active here. It's still 0.00, just for those who are wondering. And he has pressure against the bishop. My king's not castled yet. You know, b4 is always in the air, which I'm totally aware of. And perhaps he can really kick my... I don't know, at some point get the bishop out somewhere. I don't know exactly where yet. But if the queen starts moving, I'm actually in big trouble. Perhaps I'm just going to get caught in the centre and all my pieces are going to get in each other's way. Which is hilarious, because that's exactly what I was trying to do to him. I was trying to open his king up, but perhaps I helped him as well. And it's just who plays better in the complications. I get the hell out of Dodge City. Also, I'm eyeing up the f-pawn. So, you know, my kind of game. I'm enjoying myself still. I've got my targets. The queen can always sneak in the back door somehow. You know, there's little ideas floating around in my head. It's just whether I can get any of them to work yet. So he plays queen e7. He's doubling up here, which again, if he kicks the knight, then perhaps I'm going to have difficulties defending the bishop. So I move the queen out the way, and you're saying, well, how does that stop? That doesn't stop anything. Surely he can still play b5 here. Well, of course, I'll just take the bishop. So I've gained a tempi, got my queen out the way, and getting the queen out the way meant that I had a square for my bishop. Well, yeah, I should really explain this one because it surprised the hell out of me. King f8. Now it defends the bishop for one, but it does line the king up with the rook. So when he played this move, I mean, I'm going, there must be a quick win here. There must be some sort of, I'm crushing through. There's nothing he can do to stop me. And to be honest, I almost stumbled upon the correct plan here. It's just my tactical ability is just not good enough yet. I'm hoping the more I'll play it, the stronger I get. Obviously, I want to jump my knight into here and cause loads of trouble on f7. I would say that I'm only 0.6 up here if I play the best move. So it's not an obvious move, but it is a good move. But it's a slow move, and a slow move in this kind of position, they're not so easy to find. You're always looking for forcing moves. You know, I'm actually worried about rook coming over now and perhaps making my queen awkward. And then what does my queen come back? Then we got b4, and then I'm getting chased around. So to find this move is pretty hard to do. But I'll give you about 10 seconds or so, because I've been talking. I'm sure you've been looking at the position. And I did consider this move, but I just didn't play it because I thought it was just weakening too many squares around my king. But h4 here keeps me at an edge. It's just a slight edge, because it's really, really hard to meet knight g4. You have to, again, you play some forcing moves. The queen's got to go back to d3, as I said. But now the knight can hop in. The downside is obviously I've now allowed potentially his bishop to sit on g4, which is why these positions are so complicated. It's probably even better on e6. Probably needs to put some defense on there as soon as he can. And then I've got to decide whether I'm going to play d5, kick it out, and then get my knight in. But the point is, I missed a chance here. That was my first miss of playing for the advantage. And the reason being is I was just a little bit, after all my aggressive play, I got a little bit worried that pushing this pawn was creating too much for weakness. I think also, originally, I strangely thought that bishop f6 was a good move, but it's absolutely awful. It's funny, like if your tactical brain's not working, you won't spot anything, because he can't take. That's key number one, which is what I was worried about. Because if you take, I've got simple move here, check matus. And because I missed that one move, because I thought bishop f6 was just good enough, and then that, you know, once he gets rid of my knight, my pawn's going to be too far up the board. His bishop's going to come into b7. I'm in big trouble. And it's just chess blindness, just silly. I didn't see the one move tactic, which is just queen mate. So anyway, so I talked myself out of h5, and I played what looks like a natural move anyway, bishop d3, which was the point of playing my queen over to h7 in the first place. It was to give my bishop a square, and now I don't have to worry about b4 so much. Play b4 anyway. Now here, I can just, and I know that I can do this, I can just bring my knight back. Originally, I thought this just lost a piece. Because I thought he could just take this. But again, it's not easy tactics to miss, but you know, you shouldn't give up calculating just after two moves. Because what does he do after this? I mean, this is just absolute death. I mean, where does the queen even go? I mean, how can this not be totally and utterly crushing? The answer is, it is totally and utterly crushing. There's literally no defense to this. And then I get in the move that I want anyway. Which is, oh no, this is even better. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at the computer for this one because this check is so hard to meet. So yeah, this position's pretty dead, isn't it? That's mate, by the way. That's a beautiful mate because this line's cut off. The pawn can't take, and the queen controls g7. So again, that's why I chickened out of knight e2. I thought I was tactically just losing. Where this would make you laugh because later on I used the same idea, but it's just not as good. So here, that was my second chance to play for an advantage. But I went for the third option, which you're going to go, what the heck are you playing at? Well, let me talk you through it. So he plays b4, so I've got to move my knight, yeah? No, I'm not moving my knight. Why should I move my knight? The way I've justified this in my head is simply the knight isn't actually going to be able to go anywhere useful. At least I didn't think so. Obviously, knight e2 was always going to be a problem. So what I'd come up with is the following. He takes the knight. Well, I mean, let's play it through. Because had he taken the knight, let's do that one first. Because this is the main point behind it. Knight g5 just comes in, and that's pretty strong. I'm not even sure how you stop this. So had my opponent been a bit loose, going, ha ha ha, I've won his knight. I mean, how do you defend this square? I've got 3 pieces attacking this square. So you can try... You can't go here because you've got a simple fork. You can't go here, which is like, oh, I'm attacking the queen, because I'm just going to smash straight through straight away. There's no defending this square. So, in fact, if you take, you lose. So you have to come to g8. Which is just nuts. And then all the pieces are coming into the party. The bishop's floating into h7 check. It's just an absolute mess. But I'll be happy with white here. Justifying the knight being sacrificed because these 3 pieces are not involved in the game yet. So let's go back. My opponent was as cold as ISO. He played rook h6, which is the best move. And he's actually a pawn up here, which is hilarious. Like, only a pawn up on the pure analysis, which means, though I'm losing a piece, I've apparently got 2 pawns worth of initiative, which is what I'd rather have anyway. So I moved the queen to the only square. That doesn't get kicked around even more, or get swapped off, because I don't want the queens to come off. Queens off here would be a disaster for me, because I have no attack left. As I say, for now, I'm counting on these pieces currently not really doing anything. So he brings in the queen with check. I block. I think it gets a little bit hairy if I start moving my king up to this side, because I'm already lining up with rooks and bishop sacrifices, etc. So I just didn't want to get anywhere near any of that. So rook f2. With rook e1 coming. I mean, obviously that's something that's in the position. He finally takes the piece. I get the rook in. So this is similar to that position where if I'd let the knight go on e2, except his rook's in a different square. And his king's possibly slightly safer because the queen is offside. But this position is 0.00. I know it sounds crazy again because I've lost the knight. I'm not gaining back material straight away in any way, sight or form. It just shows you that chess is not about just counting your pieces. Sometimes it's about, you know, I know that my rook looks good here because there's a mating square if I ever get my queen there. I know this is good because my rook's lined up with a king, so it means the squares around the king are weak. So here I'm still feeling fairly happy. I mean, I'm not jumping for joy because I can't find the win. And in fact, here it'd be so tempting just to say, oh, I must be winning because I can just play this. And I think initially I almost played it without even thinking, but it just loses instantly to this. This pawn must be defended. And I have 2 ways to defend that pawn before I play knight g5. Because that's the other advantage leaving the queen on this line, is the knight was always threatening to come back into the game. And it can't be kicked easily from here. And here comes my, unfortunately, my final chance to try to be honest, keep an edge. Because the queen's being kicked around still. All I need to do is defend this pawn. And there's 2 ways to defend it. And I'll tell you why I discounted the better move, because obviously I've got to go wrong at some point. I keep saying I'm having these chances. Is I saw that obviously if he takes the d pawn, all my attack is for nothing. I think he can even take with the queen. I don't think it has to be bishop taken after knight g5. But anyway, that's not the point. The point's this. I had my heart set on playing knight g5, which is why I did not take with a queen. And the other reason I didn't take with a queen was because the queen's then lined up with this bishop, and I just thought, well, it just seems a little bit unnecessary. If I just take with a pawn, that's now defended, then I can play knight g5, and I must be winning. But, had I taken with a queen, I'm actually eyeing up this pawn as well, which is like, oh, that's nothing to do with the game, is it? But it is, because it brings my queen straight back into the attack. Perhaps it's coming back into here. It's a really good... I don't know why I've just chucked in c5 there. C5 is actually the best move. But, I don't know, say we play a quiet move here. Actually, yeah, c5 would be natural, because you probably want to defend this one, right? Either c5 or potentially knight here. That looks pretty strong. So let's play knight d5. And then just knight c... Oh, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. The the danger levels are so high. I mean, you can't block with a bishop, obviously I'll just take it. So I underestimate how strong the queen was going to be on c3. I mean, that's not even the best move. The best move is c5, which hilariously takes advantage of that pin that we were just talking about. But here, I can just go to, oops, sorry, queen b3, attacking the knight, because it's no longer defended. So where's the knight going to go? Or you can line up a rook and the knight. And then you've got all sorts of spectacularness. I mean, that is the whole fun of this. I mean, it's just absolute chaos on the board. You know, the knight's there to be taken. You have to play some really cold moves like c4, which is... I mean, like, you try and play that when... I must say, both of us use a lot of time in this game. A lot of time. So now you've got to save the queen. So where's your queen going? You see my point? It's just absolute chaos. And I did totally underestimate how good the queen was on c3. I just thought, again, a little bit superficially, not working hard enough at the board, that I was just lining myself up for trouble. Which is why I took with a c-pawn. Which is my first big mistake, unfortunately. And now my opponent's got a decent edge. Because remember, he is a piece up here. And if I can't keep my aggression going, if I don't get knight g5 in, what else have I got? So he starts defending pretty well, to be honest. I mean, this is good defense. I keep trying to be active. I start chasing his queen around. Puts his queen to a good square. He could, as I say, we've both only probably got about 10 minutes left here in an hour game with 30 seconds on the clock, which sounds like a lot, but when it's complicated, trust me, it's not long enough. I was really hoping for this move because after I play rook f1, his queen's pretty passive on b2. So let's go back. So I'm trying to chase his queen to a worse square. He actually puts it into an even better square. Funny thing is, I didn't even consider this, which is ridiculous, because what I was thinking at some point is I may be trapping his queen. So obviously I've got to watch out for this bishop up here. What's going on? But if that ever goes, then his queen's actually trapped on g2. He's got no squares. Everything else is covered. So I bring my other rook over. I'm trying to get some checks down here on the e-file. I mean, that is checkmate, so why not threaten it? I didn't think he could take here, which is the temptation. Yeah, no, it's just mate, isn't it? Silly me. Of course it is. So I thought I was being tricky, a little bit clever. Okay, you can take that, but then I'm going to mate you. But even here, I mean, I think he plays pretty accurately. Yeah, bishop f5 is a great move. Bringing one of those pieces I was talking about that's not in the game. I'm trying again just to get some sort of cheapos on the queen, trying to move around, trying to make it tricky for him. He actually missed a killer move here. I mean, I'm already in big trouble, so what he plays, he doesn't get any worse. But bishop h6 would be death, because there's not really a lot I can do about this rook. And I'm running out of a lot of squares. After swapsies, I've always got to watch out for rook takes knight. That is the problem. This pawn is pinned. But instead, he still plays a good move. Bishop takes, pawn takes. He's still +4 here, unfortunately. Then plays his bishop in, which is still +4. It's actually creeped up to +5, which is unfortunate. I break the pin. I think both of us thought he couldn't take here because of this. But unfortunately, for me, he does have bishop check. And here, what do? I mean... I guess I could take it. Can I take it? But then I've got to watch out for Queen F2 check. You know, I'm not defending this square anymore. I'm just getting hammered. But we both missed Bishop E6 check, luckily. So he didn't take my knight. But he still plays a good move. I mean, I've got trouble. There is trouble coming around my king. My dark squares are awful. I swing my queen back in. The queen's trying to come and rescue the situation. It's defending the knight on F3. Maybe there's some sneaky mate. I don't know. There's not yet. But you never know. I could get a checkmate here, if possible. Maybe he'll forget, and maybe this piece will be loose at some point. You know, you've got to be optimistic. This is obviously pretty much route one when we were threatening sort of check and horrible stuff. So I throw in the queen. And I bring the queen back because I'm now attacking that bishop twice. So I'm thinking, oh good, now he has to defend that bishop. He doesn't. He can just... Well, he does, but with the best move on the board. And right here, like, he's only got about 1 minute and 30 left on his clock. And I waited a little bit. I probably had about 5 minutes before playing this, which loses. And it loses very spectacularly in two ways. Now, the one that I couldn't believe he wouldn't play, and as I say, he's low on clock. He will get 30 seconds when he makes a move. But I was just like, why doesn't he just take it? I don't get it. I can't defend anything here. None of the rooks can move. I'm going to definitely lose one of them. And the worst thing of it is, I haven't got any time to do anything spectacular, like takes here first and threaten mate, because he takes with check. And that's the key. And that's why that would instantly end the game. But you know what? My opponent was cooking up something even better. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. He's just going to take the pawn. I'll resign. That's it. And then he gave me what I thought was hope. He played. I'm not even going to make the move. I'll let the system do it. Rook B8, which is absolutely crushing. I thought, oh, he's made a mistake. He's made a mistake. Great. You know, I've got let off. I've stayed in this game. I've fought hard. I'm okay. I'm taking that knight, and it's false mate. Unfortunately. I'm like, I can cover that, can't I? And then, boom, straight in my face, checkmate on G2. It was a brilliant game. I really enjoyed playing it, even though I ended up on the wrong side of it. Just shows you how many little chances you can still get in a game. I obviously haven't covered every single line that I could have covered in that. But that'll give you a gist, and I hope you enjoyed that game too. All I can say is well played to my opponent, and I'll get you next time. But thanks, guys. Go and follow the Summer Chess League on Twitter as well. They'll give you all the updates of when the next matches are, etc. Because there's some good players playing. We've had GM Keith Arkle turn up. Simon Williams is turning up tomorrow. So, you know, there's some quality players on the scene. But that's it for me for now. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video, and I'll speak to you guys soon.